This is the second time that former President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee party is endorsing Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi as Jubilee's presidential candidate in 2027. What does this move mean to President William Samoei Arap Ruto? It means it is not going to be a walk in the park for him to secure a second term in 2027. In short, Kenyans will vote against him. Now I want us to listen to what Jeremiah Kioni is saying before we proceed.
Party, not to mean that he becomes the eventual presidential candidate, but a presidential candidate within the party who will then join others in coming up with one person who I believe as a coalition or as people in the opposition, we should be able to back. And I see you looking at me like you want me to mention the name. And I don't need to mention the name. You can mention the name. Ni jina gani wamesema?
Matiangi.
Wao wenyewe wameamua wanataka Matiangi as their presidential candidate.
Wow. The truth is naked. It means President William Ruto will face Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi. There is no doubt that the Jubilee SG, that is Jeremiah Kioni, can endorse Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi without Uhuru Kenyatta's blessings. You can't convince me. It is clear. Uhuru Kenyatta is going to support Matiangi to make William Ruto a one-term president. And I'm going to support my argument shortly. But before we do that, it reminds me of something that Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi said. I think it was in April 2022, but allow me to be specific. It was between 18th and 22nd of April 2022. Let's listen to what he said.
What are the greatest challenges I see in this year's election that we need to be worried about? Number one, an unprecedented level of voter bribery. You have seen political leaders moving around, massing groups of people and giving them money. Some of them are actually caught on tape, asking wananchi to queue and they're just giving them money to attend meetings or to do certain things, ferrying people from one point of the country to another. The resultant effect of what we are seeing, because that is not your money. That cannot be your hard-earned money that you are distributing in that manner. If we are not careful as Kenyans, let me say this today in public, if we are not careful, by the time we are done with this electoral cycle, we will have laundered criminals into our elective institutions, even up to about 40%. Money launderers, wash players, criminals, drug dealers, and all those, because they are the only ones who can access that amount of money. They will be writing laws for you, and they will allow themselves to allow that gambling and all those things to thrive in this country. We are not going to fight poverty in this country and succeed if we don't address our challenges related to corruption.
Now that is Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi speaking, and I must be honest with my fellow Kenyans. He warned us, and most of us did not listen to him. Some of us voted for President William Samoei Arap Ruto and his political allies. And allow me to ask you one question. Do you think that we elected wash leaders in quotes? Please let me know what you think in the comment section. I want us to focus on Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi beating President William Samoei Arap Ruto in 2027. I promise to support my argument with valid points. Number one, Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi's track record speaks for itself. That is the reality on the ground. And allow me to remind you that in 2013, when Uhuru Kenyatta was sworn in as Kenya's fourth president, he was able to work with Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi in different state departments. Now, the first state department that Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi was given was ICT. Remember how he was able to transform that department, and the Kenyans were able to move from analog to digital. That was Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi working. Now, when he was given the State Department of Education, we all understand that previously there were cases of cheating, and Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi admitted and he transformed the State Department of Education. So he has got a positive record where Kenyans can say that this man has done this and that. When he was given the State Department of National Administration and Interior, he was able to perform very well. And the Kenyans know that if he can become president, then we can see change. Sometimes we need somebody who can say the truth. We need someone who can act. We need someone who will not just speak without actions. And the Kenyans, remember, and this brings me to the second point. Now, the Gen Z, the youth of this nation. And I believe that many people have talked about the youth of this nation during the Gen Z protest. Some of them were calling out Matiangi's name to come and vie against President William Samoei Arap Ruto. And right now, Kenyans are looking for an alternative. That is the reality on the ground. In fact, my honest opinion, I strongly feel that we should get rid of these old politicians, and I'm not afraid to mention their name. I think it is high time that Raila Odinga, as an individual, he has worked, according to me, is a good person. I think he should just retire. Now, the likes of Davan, the likes of Wetangula, those people should just retire from politics. They should give room for fresh blood like Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi. And I'm telling you, Matiangi is an alternative for the Gen Z. The big question is, will they vote for Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi as the president? The third reason is Uhuru Kenyatta and the support. You know, in politics, it's about numbers, it's about resources, it's also about interest and the narrative. The narrative can be created. The narrative right now, it is a natural narrative. President William Ruto has failed to deliver. Uhuru Kenyatta can provide the resources, and if Rigathi Gachagua can decide to support him, then it must be ready to receive Mount Kenya votes. The big question is, will this alliance, the Jubilee alliance, Rigathi Gachagua and Kalonzo Musyoka, because that is the alliance that is going to be formed, will they support Dr. Fred Okengo Matiangi as the presidential candidate? Because we have listened to what Jeremiah Kiuna said, that as Jubilee, he will be their presidential candidate, but in that coalition, they will come up with their own presidential candidate. I don't know what you think. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. Now, I promised at the end of my videos to carry out civic education. This is what you need to do. Register as a voter, demonetize politics, and vote for someone with a policy, so that we can end up with the leaders that are qualified to lead us, not people who will just make noise in the National Assembly, county assemblies, in Senate, and even at the executive. Bye. I will see you in the next video.